This is what your favorite guitar says about you. Warning, you might get personally called out in this video, so just letting you know. If you have a Fender Mustang, you fit one of two categories. You're either a Kurt Cobain disciple and really enjoy grunge or shoegaze with an unhealthy amount of guitar pedals, or you're trying to go for the Claro, Be-A-Ba-Doobie, Gen Z, indie pop vibe. Both are very valid, and I will say Mustang players tend to have more aura than the average guitarist. Oh, and if you specifically have a Fender Japan 69 reissue Mustang in Candy Apple Red, I know who inspired that purchase. If you have a Gibson L-5, you definitely fit the target demographic for Life Alert, but don't get it confused because these people are very different from the Les Paul players. Gibson L-5 owners are some of the last people out there who still use guitar forums online, but I love that for them. Can we please bring back guitar forums actually? I low-key feel like this is a lost art. Gibson L-5 players love a good 2-5-1 chord progression and are just overall wholesome people that we need to protect at all costs. If you have a Charvel DK24, you're most likely a mega introvert. You have crippling perfectionism and are very particular about the specs of your guitar, especially the neck. You are super loyal to the brand, and you get bonus points if you have a Charvel in bubblegum pink. If you have a Yamaha Revstar, you probably are into Star Trek, because this is the most Star Trek instrument I've ever seen. Revstar players are pretty chill though, and were possibly influenced by Chris Buck or Matteo Mancuso, or the pretty colors. If you have a whole collection of guitars, this one is your secret favorite. I'm convinced the Revstar players have been keeping this guitar a secret, because they know it's goated, and I don't blame them. There are way too many overpriced guitars out there, so you gotta gatekeep the good stuff for yourself. If you have a Gibson Explorer, you've accepted your fate that you're gonna hit the body of this guitar on every piece of furniture you own due to its diabolical shape. Like you think you're safe in your little twisty chair until you spin around to grab the pick that you've just dropped on the floor, and you hear the sound of death when your guitar hits the table. I completely understand your pain, and at that moment you can see your soul leaving your body. Gibson Explorer owners are the type of people to have a genuine crash out if someone mistook their guitar for a Fender Meteora. You spend a lot of time reminiscing on your college days when you played in a band with your friends and used to skip all your lectures. I wish I could do that. And out of everyone in this video, you're the most likely to have an antique car that you might be regretting owning right now due to gas prices, but you'll never admit that to anyone. If you have a G&L Legacy, you are a free thinker within the guitar world and you don't want to be like the others. You also might have unk status, and the only reason I say that is because you've had this guitar for over 15 years, and yet it somehow plays better than all of your other guitars. This is definitely an underrated instrument, but you can't say that in front of the others. G&Ls are interesting because they made such a nice guitar and then gave it that headstock. Crazy work. Also, this is totally random, but I always thought that their bridges looked like a frog. Does anyone else see that? If you have a Squier Classic Vibe Bass 6, you got an instrument that is having an identity crisis, just like yourself. You can't decide if you want to be a bassist or a guitarist, so you opted for this absolute chonk. The pros are that it has more strings than a bass, but the cons are that it has more strings than a bass. This really works out for the jazz or prog players who can shred genuinely any instrument you give them, but for the regular mortals out there, you've just realized that trying to have some sort of muting technique has just been thrown out the window. If you tried it out in a store before you bought it, you probably held it for 30 seconds and assumed you'd be fine and that you'd be strong enough to hold it for prolonged periods of time, but oh boy were you wrong. And I'm sure your constant migraines have nothing to do with the fact that you strap this washing machine around your neck for 4 hours every night. You spent so much time correcting people that this is not just a long electric guitar that you finally accepted defeat, also because your head hurts. If you have a Godin Multiac, you're actually crazy at guitar. You probably started a long time ago with a metal phase during your teenage youth trying to play as fast as humanly possible, but eventually you had this like classical renaissance, and now you play a very unique hybrid Spanish style exclusively on nylon strings, gigging 3 nights a week and giving guitar lessons here and there. And you love the harmonic minor scale more than your family. JK, that's a joke. Or is it? If you have a PRS SE McCarty 594, you are a chronic guitar collector. I know for a fact you have an absolutely insane guitar collection at home. Like, I'm praying your house does not catch on fire because 1% of the entire world's guitar supply is probably in your room. Your skill doesn't live up to the absolute quality of this instrument, but who cares, you're probably gonna buy another guitar in 2 weeks. If you have a Strandberg Boden original, I'm like 100% sure you have a fancy desk setup at home with lights and those big speakers and probably a MIDI keyboard hiding under your table. Yeah, pull it out, I know it's there. You got the guitar equivalent of those expensive ergonomic mouses that are disliked by some, but while people are hating on it, you're over here sweep picking arpeggios in the comfort of your music office that I'm totally not jealous of, for the record. Strandberg players are silent but deadly. Like, if someone pulls one of these out, you should be worried. They're gonna humble you in about 4.5 seconds. Also, these are the type of people who 3D print stuff for fun. You know what? They're probably just engineers. And out of everyone in this video, they're the most likely to spend years of their life on DAWs doing some music production and crashing out because they can't separate the vocals from the backing track. If only they had ODDLY. Wait a minute, that's the sponsor for today's video. If you're a music nerd like me, which I know you are because you're still watching, there's a high chance you like to tinker around with music production until 3 AM when you have an exam the next day. The most annoying thing about trying to strip the vocals or guitar off your favorite songs is that, like, no artists ever drop their backing track, except for Luna Lee. So you have to resort to those karaoke videos, but they don't sound the same as the original, and they also contain other instruments you might want to take out. No offense, saxophone. Thankfully though, we got ODDLY, which uses AI to take any song or audio file and surgically extract the individual components into their own separate layers, like the vocals, the drums, the guitar, literally anything you want. This technology is scarily good, and especially with their new Andromeda model. It's their fastest and most precise AI yet, giving you the ability to isolate any layer with virtually zero artifacts. I have a link in the description where you can access ODDLY for free, so I encourage you to try it out if you're interested. I can tell you that for me, it's been a total game changer when it comes to music production. If you have a Thinline Telecaster, you're a late Gen X or millennial who's not afraid to pour a lot of time and money into your hobbies. For some reason, the word urban lumberjack comes to my mind when I think of this guitar, especially the ones with the wood finish. These are the people that grind their own coffee beans every morning and probably wear a lot of flannel. Since Thinline Tellies are semi-hollow, it takes a monumental amount of effort for you to take the 5 seconds to actually plug it in, since on its own it's resonant enough to play all your favorite Radiohead riffs on the couch. Low-key though, in my opinion, this is a very nice guitar and it deserves more love. If you have a baritone guitar, I won't lie, you're actually a goated musician. You've sold your soul to be able to play in the key of depression. And it probably doesn't help that you always play in the dark like Bochy the Rock, and are effectively nocturnal at this point. Most likely you got this guitar for chugging, you get the lower range and don't have to deal with the chunky neck of a 7-string. Or you have both. Now that would be overkill. But all in all, baritone players, please just make sure to get your vitamin D. If you have a Washburn, this guitar has been handed down to you like a family heirloom regardless of how good it plays. You're like the 17th owner this guitar has had. The reason I say this is because anytime someone tells me about their Washburn, they always add who gave it to them. It's always like a sibling or a random cousin. I'm convinced no one's ever bought one. They just already exist. And the one you own is pretty good or it's really awful, but you've had it for so long that it has sentimental value. And who knows, maybe one day you'll pass it down to your own children, and they'll sell it on eBay for $49. If you have an ESP LTD EC1000 ABCDEFG, apart from the absolute barcode sounding name, this guitar is made for the power chord connoisseurs out there. You know exactly who you are. You wanted something a little edgy but still had that Les Paul shape. Kinda like going for a rockstar vibe plus a little sprinkle of undiagnosed something. You love your high gain distortion pedal so much that I don't think you've ever heard the dry signal from this guitar. Like, ever. Out of everyone though, I feel like LTD owners tend to be the most self-aware. If you have a Fender precision bass, you are a super reliable person who probably has a lot of random life skills. Like, these are the type of people who buy those insanely powerful flashlights with like 200,000 lumens. You know the ones I'm talking about? The ones that can light up an entire field? Because one day the electricity might go out and you want to be the one prepared for when someone asks for a flashlight. You probably solder things in your free time, and I know for a fact that your daily uniform consists of cargo shorts. And when you're feeling fancy, you wear cargo shorts, but in a different color. The same holds true for if you're in a band, since you're the person everyone goes to when they need help setting up their pedal board or when the digital stage box is having problems. Thank you for your hard work and service, Fender P-Bass players. If you have one of the guitars within the Ibanez RG series, you're definitely a metalhead. Like, I know you're not playing any clean tones out of that guitar. You're probably a chronic Spotify user and gamer, and also have a really niche hyperfixation on something random, like mechanical keyboards. You're the type of person that tries to convince other Ibanez players that your specific model is better than the other billions of guitars Ibanez produces, but that is a losing battle. You'll never win. You care a lot about how your guitar looks, and I hope that you know I'm personally jealous of your inlays. If you have a Taylor 314 CE, just based off the vibes, you're probably a boomer. Not that this guitar is for an older generation, but that they're the most likely demographic willing to drop over 2 bands on this instrument. 90% of what you play on this guitar are open chords, and the other 10% is tuning because you can tell when the B string is half of a semitone flat. You probably have an RV and like to travel the national parks in your free time, because you can never turn down a campfire opportunity. If you have a Squier Classic Vibe 50s Telecaster, you either are a seasoned guitarist who wants a Telecaster but doesn't want to pay the full Telecaster price, so when you played the Squier at a random guitar center one day and made the impulse decision to buy it, it's now sitting at your house and has been low-key neglected for the past few years. Or this is your first ever electric guitar, and instead of getting the standard Strat shape that everyone goes for, you wanted the heavy brick guitar that cuts into your chest every time you play. And because it looks cool. If you have an ESP Snakebyte guitar, you just wanted a guitar with as much surface area as possible. Let's be so real. Like, I could have my whole dinner off this thing. You're obviously a down-picking demon and a James Hetfield fan, and I'm convinced that this guitar could literally double as a weapon. That's probably why they named it Snakebite. This is what you get when you're deep into the guitar collection and no one stops you. This is not your first purchase, and it definitely won't be your last. And your Sweetwater representative does not mind at all. If you have a Danelectro Stock 59, you would definitely be friends with a Rickenbacker player. I mean, they kind of look similar to Rickenbackers. I don't know how to describe it, but these guitars look like they're the instrument equivalent of a lava lamp. Does that make any sense? It just looks like they're melting. But if anything's for sure, Danelectro players are as unique as their guitars are. These are for the people that refuse to play any instrument that doesn't have lipstick pickups. And I know they have a burning desire to have tone that nobody else in the universe can replicate, including themselves, because they've already forgotten which amp setting they used 10 minutes ago. And finally, if you don't have a guitar, what are you doing here? You watched the whole video knowing I wasn't gonna call it your guitar? Cause you don't even have one. Maybe I should do a video on what your instrument says about you. I'm looking at you, oboe player. Shout out to my oboe bros out there. If your guitar wasn't in this video, do not panic. There is a 99% chance I talked about it in my other videos. Also, thank you for 20,000 subscribers. What? That is absolutely crazy. My channel's only like a few months old. If your username is FakeAbyss, ZikaZB, Bananaman, or Boomer Guitar Dad, then thank you very, very much for being a YouTube member and supporting the channel. Y'all are real ones. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.